Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming. I'm your host, Amy Ju from the PSC Anti-Bullying Committee. I just want to say welcome. Please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. Tell us who you are and what campus you're from. So we're delighted today that you've joined us for our Brown Bag Lunch and Learn. Before we begin our official program, let's just go over some quick housekeeping announcements. Please remain muted during the presentation. We will be recording and posting the presentation part online. So if you miss anything or if you need to leave early, the information will be available after the event. Please feel free to use the chat to share useful information with each other. If you have a technical question, just drop it in the chat as well. We will be taking questions at the end, so please use your Zoom raise hand. And if you want to ask the question anonymously, please feel free to direct message me or Joe or Courtney, who will be our speakers. Next, we will review briefly our PSC community norms and practices. We know that our union prizes both democratic debate and understands that we need unity of purpose to build power. The PSC Executive Council adopted community norms and practices in July of 2021 to guide how we communicate with one another. So please follow along as I read out loud the PSC community norms and practices. Respect for everyone's worth is fundamental to a university, and particularly to CUNY, which was founded on principles of inclusion. We commit ourselves to nurture a work environment that honors the dignity of all, is respectful and free from discrimination, harassment, or bullying. And we therefore agree to respect each other's differences and to create a healthy, safe, and rewarding environment that nurtures, challenges, and supports the community. In order for our community to function in this way, it is useful for its individual members to make the following commitments. 1, I commit to conduct that is mutually respectful and not discriminatory, harassing, bullying, or threatening. 2, I take responsibility for my actions and my personal perspectives, recognizing that there may be disagreements with others. 3, I will respect everyone's contributions and honor the roles and responsibilities of all members through my words and actions. 4, I will be mindful and reflect on how I might be using or misusing my power and privilege in my interactions. 5, I will intend to be inclusive and support others with the same respect and compassion that I want for myself. 6, I am willing to be an active ally, an upstander, by speaking, intervening, or acting on behalf of a person being attacked or bullied. 7, I will seek to understand others and assume best intentions in all interactions. 8, I will seek to understand other perspectives and avoid making assumptions. 9, I commit to listen actively and with compassion at the workplace and in all union meetings. So without further ado, I'm going to hand the mic over to our two special guests from NYSUT's Peer Support Line. We have with us today Courtney Hill and Joe Mangani. Thank you. Take it away.
Thanks, Amy. Thank you guys for letting us come and join your meeting today and share a little bit about this, this new benefit. And we're going to go over the program, and then we will leave some time, lots of time for Q&A, and we're more than happy to review all of these things with you guys. So I'm Courtney Hill. I'm the social services specialist at NYSUT. I started the position back in July. So I'm new to NYSUT and new to this position. And then this is also a new program. So bear with us. We will do our best to answer all your questions. And I have with me today, Joe. Joe is one of the peers who works on our peer support line. And a little about Joe. He was born and raised in the Bronx. He attended Manhattan College and Columbia University Teachers College. He taught physical education in Manhattan and then in Valley Stream. He was involved in the Valley Stream Teachers Association in Nassau County, worked in a variety of roles, and was the union vice president when he retired. He's been on our peer support team since we started back in September. So we're going to go over the stuff with you. Thanks, Joe. This is Joe's first time joining me at a presentation, so I appreciate his time.
Good to be here. Thanks.
Thanks, Joe. All right, hang on, guys. And we have a quick presentation, and then we can get into just some open discussion. All right, so the Peer Support Line is a partnership between NYSUT Member Benefits and Rutgers University Behavioral Healthcare. This program began its development just prior to me being hired. So we did get it up and running in the summertime. We had a soft launch back in September, and we are steadily increasing in terms of calls and engagement on the line. So the big things for takeaways today is this peer support line is free and confidential. Most importantly, it's staffed by peers. So everyone that's on the line, like Joe, they understand the unique situations and stressors that really impact NYSUT members. So it's free and confidential to members and also their families. That way, if we do have, people reaching out on behalf of a spouse or a parent or a child, that's also totally acceptable. So the peer support specialists that answer the phones are really trained to provide resources and information, but also to listen and really establish a relationship based on shared experiences. So whether you're a new teacher, a support staff, a professor, a retiree, the peer support line really provides assistance to everyone. So when we look at Rutgers, Rutgers manages peer hotlines for many groups, including law enforcement, veterans, nurses, caregivers, and they have a New Jersey-based educator program that's been running successfully for over 20 years. The support specialists get tons of training. So they're trained on suicide, substance abuse, child abuse, elder abuse, cultural competence, as well as active listening, wellness, and self-care. Rutgers is continuing still to recruit. While we do have a full team at the moment, we can take time at the end to discuss further, but we are keeping resumes on file if anyone would be interested in working on the line in a per diem basis. Rutgers handles all of the training and hiring, but I can definitely assist and hook everybody up who may be interested. When we look at the model that they use on all of their lines, including our peer support line, they use the reciprocal peer support model. So this really focuses a lot on outreach and education to promote wellness and resilience. They also look at wellness plans, coming up with goals, referrals for any additional services and resources, and the follow-up care, which I personally think is a really great feature and has become pretty popular with callers. So they can opt to get, a check-in or a check-back call as often as they'd like to see if whatever support or resources that were put in place were helpful to them, or if they might want additional guidance or follow-up, or just to chat with one of the peers on the line and kind of, discuss anything that might be going on in their lives. Peer support has really been shown to alleviate stress and anxiety, promote wellness, enhance coping skills, and just overall build resilience. So we do track the calls based on topic. So that way we can kind of see if there's, trends in certain areas or things that we should start really providing any additional support on. So some of the calls that they've been seeing on the line are people calling in with feelings of anxiety, being overwhelmed, worried, nervous, looking to access local resources for a variety of things, concerns about medical and behavioral health, some financial concerns, and then a lot of, new teachers, new staff, and kind of developing a work-life balance. I'll take a quick second and say, Joe, if there's anything you wanted to add to that in any of those topics, anything that you're seeing as the person actually answering the phone, or any additional comments on the types of calls that you've been getting that you think they might want to hear about.
Sure. Those topics that you outlined there are definitely some of the major topics that we've covered. I'll let you finish, and Courtney, and then I'll go through some of the samples, some samples of some of the calls that we had in terms of, how we handled them, what some of the issues were. So yeah, we finish up with what you're doing, and then I'll kind of give some examples.
Great. Thanks, Joe.
Yep.
So just a few frequently asked questions that we have been getting as we've gone around and discussed the line. People see Rutgers, they think New Jersey, but no, all of the peer support specialists are in New York. They have some amount of experience working in New York, and they're all working remotely to assist our New York members. This is not through EAP. It is a support line, so it can help you find local resources or work within your EAP, but there's no referral. You don't have to go through me. You don't have to go through your insurance. Again, it's free and confidential, and you can choose to call it, at your convenience. There's no limit on the number of calls. There's no limit on the number of sessions. And members have the freedom to choose, how often they would like to speak to somebody. So whether it be once or once a week, anything goes. So this is the phone number. We have some information on the website as well. There is a new email option on the website, which you can use to send a secure message. It goes directly to the team to a secure email box. It gets checked on the next shift, and people can arrange if you want to, put a little information in that email and say, I'd love to get a call back. I'm free on Tuesday afternoons to talk about, my mom needing some care for dementia, as much or as little information as you would like to share. There is a voicemail for the after hours, so that will direct folks to either call 911 for a medical emergency and also the option of 988 for mental health assistance. So that's kind of an overview. I'm happy to have Joe speak a little bit more, and then we can take some time for Q&A.
Thanks, Courtney. So we started the program back in September, and I think it's really been successful. I know all the peer specialists who have been working on it really feel that it's been a real worthwhile venture that NYSUT has started. We know that Rutgers has been using these peer support lines or administering these peer support lines for many years. They do have one that's been established in New Jersey for New Jersey educators. I believe it's been for like 20 years or so. So it really has been, we have found so far, a real benefit to the NYSUT members who have called us, and we really feel gratified in being able to help them. So a little bit more about the line. What we really do is we try to help our peers who call in to navigate through their issues. And, part of that is providing emotional help as well as practical help by connecting them with resources. We share common experiences with them. We talk about things that we may have gone through that can help support whatever kinds of issues that they are bringing to us. We try to make connections with callers. We try to normalize their issues for them so that they know that they are not, facing something that, is unique to them, but that, educators across New York State, New York City have faced before. We try to be active listeners, and, we restate, reflect, and summarize and affirm feelings of the callers, which I think reflects empathy for our callers and really makes them feel comfortable with us. We're not social workers, we're not therapists, we're not counselors, and we don't pretend to be when we're on the line with people, but we are comfortable speaking with them and making connections with callers and offering them the resources that we think can really help them in whatever kind of situation that they're in. We try to be compassionate, but we stay within the scope of our training, right? We don't diagnose. That's, we're not, as I said previously, we're not therapists. We don't diagnose, but we do act as peer support. And, we really try to listen and get to the bottom of what it is that people need and how we can help them. So what I'd like to do is just give you a couple of examples of some of the types of calls that we've had so that you could kind of understand some of the issues that we've dealt with. So we had a caller who was in her 29th year of teaching in a public school in New York State. She was involved in a serious accident. Unfortunately, she sustained some injuries that didn't allow her to return to work once she recovered from those injuries. Unfortunately, after all of her leave time was used up, she was a couple of months short of having her the time she fully needed for her 30-year pension. And as many of you know, if you retire short of your full pension line, it could be a very large financial hit in the pension that you're receiving for the rest of your retirement. So we worked with her. We talked to her about coordinating with her doctors, her union, her administration on ways that she would be able to get those 3 months, 2 or 3 months that she needed credited to her, even though her sick time was out. And I would say these calls went on for probably the better part of a month, weekly and sometimes bi-weekly check-ins to see the progress that she was making on some of the suggestions that we gave her. Again, dealing with her administration, her union, and her doctors. And the end result was she was able to tap into a sick bank in her school district, which her district approved her for the remaining time that she needed to acquire the extra couple of months of service time. And she will be able to retire with her 30 years of full service. So that was kind of a success story that was an ongoing peer support situation. Myself, with having some union background and another peer support specialist who was a former school nurse, we kind of collaborated to help her navigate what she needed to do to get the support she needed. So that was a great instance. We had a special education teacher who was in her 4th year of teaching, who was really struggling with the makeup of her class and the behaviors that were going on in her class. She was thinking of leaving her job and her position because of the difficulties that she had. I was able to speak to her and share some similar experiences that we had in my school district probably about a decade ago. Very similar experience with a special education teacher who was going through many of the same problems. I spoke to her about some of the ways that we helped that teacher alleviate some of the issues that were going on in conjunction with parents in the classroom and other teachers and coworkers and her administration. And the teacher that we were talking to, very supportive, felt very supported. We followed up with a couple of more phone calls. She had said she had taken some action on some of the things that we spoke about and that things were getting better, and she felt a little more relief than before she called us. So, you know, another success story. We also deal a lot with retiree phone calls. We had a retiree who initially called to speak about Medicare, that he had recently retired, wasn't sure, he was coming upon the age of 65, wasn't sure about how to go about applying for Medicare and how his supplemental insurance would work. So we gave him some resources to get information on that. And we talked a little bit about the application process, connected him with some of the Medicare resources that he could reach out to. But then just in conversation, we started speaking, and he had been retired about the same amount of time I was. And I said to him, how's retirement going? And he said, well, it's not what he expected. He missed his work relationships. He recently had a death in the family, which was difficult on him. He also said that he was having some relationship issues at home and, you know, maybe feeling a little bit depressed since he retired. So I asked him if he had, you know, thought about reaching out and speaking to some professionals about getting some help or talking to somebody about it. And he said, no, yes, he had thought about it, but no, he hasn't reached out to anybody. So I said, do you think that's something that you might be interested in? And he said, actually, I would be. And then we spent the next 10 or 15 minutes, working on finding him some resources in the community that he lived in for him to reach out and get some help with the issues that he was feeling. So that was kind of an unexpected outcome of the call. It wasn't the initial call, but I think that's kind of speaks to what a peer support line is supposed to be. And we were glad we were able to help him with that. We also had another retired teacher. She was a bit older, in her 80s, who was living upstate and feeling isolated. She lived alone. Her family didn't live nearby. And she was looking for community resources and how she can be more involved in community activities. And the peer support specialist was able to connect her to the Office of the Aging in her county, as well as some other senior programs in her area that she was unaware of. And the connection also was that the counselor that was speaking to, not the counselor, the specialist that was speaking to her was also a retired teacher. And she kind of did weekly check-ins with her for a while to see how things were going, and just to offer some peer support, and just to offer, you know, somebody to speak to on a weekly basis. So that's another example of you know, how the peer support line has worked. So like I said, it's been really gratifying. I think we've helped a lot of people in a lot of different areas. And we look forward to, you know, continuing that work and an increase in calls as more people find out about the line, and we do more of these workshops throughout the state. I believe we're going to be present at the state conference, the NYSUT state conference. So hopefully word starts to spread and we can, you know, reach as many people as possible. So if there's any questions, we'd be glad to take them.
Thanks for your perspective, Joe. I really always like having, usually Liz, who's the program coordinator, joins me, but having someone from the line, someone who actually takes the calls, speak, I think just really says a lot and illustrates how well this program is going, how great it's staffed. Two things I wanted to bring up that I kind of thought of while Joe was speaking. So one is where he says, you know, all the folks on the line are not necessarily mental health professionals. They're not there to be therapists, counselors, they're not doing clinical work. I did want to note the program coordinator, Liz Espinoza, is a clinical social worker like myself. So if there is someone who calls in on the line and one of the peers feels as though, you know, this person might need a higher level of intervention, you know, Liz is available to chat with that person. They also get trained in kind of how to, you know, do a warm handoff to other hotlines and resources if something is a little bit more crisis-based. It's really not the intention of this line, but we obviously want to make sure everyone's getting the help that they do need. So that's another feature of the line, is utilizing Liz's expertise as well as other resources that are available in the area. And again, like Joe said, sometimes it's just kind of bridging that gap or getting people more comfortable in talking about their feelings or talking about things they're concerned about. And they might say, wow, you know, I am ready for therapy or a group, or to reach out and do something about these feelings I've been having. But this is kind of a way to, you know, dip your toes in the water and just kind of feel, you know, I can talk to somebody completely confidentially for free on my own time, and just get comfortable with the process of, you know, discussing anything emotional that they might not have been open to in the first place. So it's definitely, you know, some great features to the program. So we are happy to, hang on, I'll stop sharing here. Take any questions, any comments, suggestions. Would love to hear from you all.